Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota TZD's Traffic Safety Hot Dish, Building Safer Roads Together, the power to regional collaboration with our Minnesota traffic safety efforts. I am so excited for all of our guests to share today some of the great work that's happening across the state. My name is Annette Larson, and I am the Minnesota Statewide TZD Program and Operations Director. On the next slide, I would just like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and our hosts for this webinar today. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the Minnesota Department of Health, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, and the Minnesota Department of Transportation. For your information, just wanted to let you know before we get started to make sure you know that this webinar is being recorded and all of our attendees are on mute. You'll be able to find several useful items on the Minnesota Towards Zero Deaths website after today's webinar, including relevant documents our speakers will be referencing today, the professional development hours form for continuing education credits, and a recording of today's webinar. And you'll find that link here on that slide. I'd also like to let you know that all video and audio for our participants today has been turned off, but you can still communicate with both our speakers and other participants by using the chat and the QA boxes in the bottom of your screen. We just ask that you please use the chat feature to introduce yourself, share ideas with all of our participants, or to let us know if you're having AV or IT issues. We ask that you use the question and answer feature if you have any questions for our speakers. I'll try to keep an eye on that during the course of the presentation, and if at the time I feel that there's a question that would be pertinent to the speaker, I will interrupt them. Otherwise, hopefully we will have time at the end of today's webinar to be able to go through those questions with everyone. On the next slide, you will see our TZD geographic regions. And so this is just looking at across the state of Minnesota, how we have it divided up for all of our TZD regional coordinators to do the great work that they're doing. In addition, you'll see both the statewide communications and marketing director and myself, along with our law enforcement liaisons that help us build relationships with our law enforcement partners. And then of course, our child passenger safety liaisons when it comes to focusing on child passenger safety. On the next slide, it looks at what the TZD program really tries to do is to bring together community stakeholders with our 5 E's, through our Safe Roads coalitions, through our education, through our outreach, and so much more. Each of our Safe Roads coalitions work to address the concerns for their community and county. They look at the crash data and what's happening on their specific roads, and then they look to implement activities and best practices to help impact reducing those deaths and serious injuries on our roadways. On the next slide, you'll see our focus areas and some of those that we really focus on. These are just some of the things that we focus on, but we also look for innovative ideas and ways that we can reach our communities to help make better choices when they get behind the wheel. On the next slide, you will see some of our TZD successes that we've seen across the state. And some of these are ones that we're going to touch on today. So I am, like I said earlier, I am so excited for our TZD regional coordinators to be able to share some of the work that they've been doing across the state and share with all of you their successes. So at this time, I am going to ask that all of our speakers today place their names and their emails in our chat box. This way, if after our presentation you have questions and want to reach out to those specific coordinators, you would be able to do so. So please take some time, speakers, to present that or put your information in the chat box. All of this information will be posted for all of our participants as well once the webinar is over today. Next slide there.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jessica Schleck. I'm the Southeast TZD Regional Coordinator.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy Morgan, and I work at MnDOT, and I'm a Public Engagement Coordinator.
So We have a new title for this now. It's not just a seatbelt convincer project, but it is the crash course where physics meets safety. So this started as a discussion about how TZD and MnDOT goals align. Both have goals of reaching students, TZD obviously with traffic safety education, and MnDOT to encourage students to consider STEM careers. So as we know, it can be a challenge sometimes to get into the schools because of class time requirements. But through discussions, we recognized that we could use the seatbelt convincer to develop a program that would help with reaching both of our goals. This program offers a really unique opportunity because instead of taking away from class time, we are actually it allows us to help with class time.
Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit more to that. I was actually just having a conversation yesterday with a woman who's at a high school talking about this program, and she's like, "You're absolutely right. Like, as soon as you can add that educational piece and component into something, those are things that they're looking for, and it allows them the opportunity to bring things into their schools." And recognizing that that was both of our goals with our different programming, that's kind of where we decided to jump in and see what we could create with that end goal in mind, and obviously our different goals set there. So we looked for a contraption, if you will, a way to be able to align these, and the seatbelt convincer pretty quickly became the appropriate tool to use because if anybody's really interested in math and science like I am, you recognize right away that crashes are physics, and we have math to describe that, and so that's kind of where we began. So next slide. The program's flow is this here. You can see those little bubbles. And essentially we're using and introducing force and Newton's laws. Now, again, these are for more middle and high school level students. And so we've developed our talking points kind of targeting more towards those, and maybe not being an absolute true like college level physics program, which it shouldn't be. We want these students to be able to walk away with a learning lesson. And so we're using this as, again, our way to get that opportunity into the classroom. And then we provide this experience with the seatbelt convincer. From there, then we take a pause and we calculate what it felt, what force occurred at that 5 to 10 mile per hour crash. We provide a safety learning piece in there, and then we link to careers. Next slide. So Newton's first laws and second laws are present within that seatbelt convincer, and these are a few of the boards that we've developed that we bring out there because the contraption is so large, and I love to use contraption as that my word to describe it. Because of that, we tend to have to be outside. And so we develop these large boards to help us with the flow of the presentation. And that's some of the ones that you'll see here. So go ahead into the next slide. There is one of our classes that we took this out to. So in the early part of it, we seatbelt one of the students in, and then we use that individual's name and talk about like, well, Jason, I don't remember this person's name, but Jason felt, 5 to 10 mile per hour crash. And then next slide, through the worksheet, we'll calculate then what he felt. And then we calculate 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth. Next slide. And from there, then we graph it, and we are able to see kind of how we have a couple relations. Because first of all, we're calculating for belted and unbelted. And so we can see instantly why a seatbelt helps with reducing force. And then we can also see instantly how speed increases that force. And so we have that learning piece right there, which is then when we transfer over to like our real world experience, and we provide individuals from the community who can speak to that and just kind of drive that point home to these students that we're in front of about why making the simple choice really can make a big difference if there is a crash. Next slide. Oh, there you go. There you see the graph. And then the careers part is something that we like to leave with, knowing that a lot of these individuals are thinking about what to do in the next coming years. And we really enjoy leaving them with some potential pathways to explore. Also knowing that we need more individuals in fields of engineering, even first responders. I mean, gosh, we need individuals in a lot of places and folks looking at career paths. So we leave them with that and we close out our program. All of this takes about 40 minutes for us to be able to accomplish. We've had a lot of success so far, and we're now in a point where we're starting to develop a training program so that other folks can have this opportunity to do this and reciprocate this too as well. That's it. I'll pass it back to you if you have any last words here, Jess.
No, if you have any questions, let us know. Like Cindy said, she's been developing a template for other coordinators to use in their regions. So we will be taking that to our regional safe roads coordinators, I guess, in the Southeast next Thursday to try to get some feedback before we push it out to everyone else. But I'm excited about it. So anyway, all right, passing it on.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa. I'm the South Central TZD Regional Coordinator, and I have my partner here from LeSueur County who will introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Tammy Stewig, LeSueur County Emergency Management and TZD Safe Roads Coalition.
Next slide.
So I was asked today to come and just explain Joyride and how it works in LeSueur County. LeSueur County does not have Uber drivers, so we have to rely on other ways to get our residents home safe after a celebration. Joyride is a safe and sober ride home that provides free rides to help get people home safely after drinking and taking other substance. The program helps keep the roads safer by reducing impaired driving. It also helps create positive image for our local liquor establishments and community celebrations. The way it works in LeSueur County is myself or my assistant coordinator, we work with organizers to book a sober bus, and we work on a location to pick them up. Organizers are responsible to find donations to pay for the bus company. The rides are in a 10-mile radius from the celebration, and it's not establishment to establishment, it's establishment to the residents. Most of our celebrations provide 3 to 4 hours for the bus, and some of them have 2 buses. The cost is free for our riders, and Joyride is funded, like I said, by donations, whether it's the fire department, local establishments, community club, or chamber of commerce. And the way we get the word out is, as you can see on the screen, we have flyers that we send out, we post on Facebook. We also work with local law enforcement to let them know that this is happening. And then the departments waive the parking violations for the night, so no one gets a ticket and they know it's safe to keep their vehicles there. Our sponsors are provided a certificate at the end of the year at the county board meeting. And our first year we started this was in 2017, I believe, and we had 315 riders. During COVID, the numbers obviously went down, but we're back up. So in 2024, we had 303 riders that we gave safe rides home to.
Excellent. Next slide. So one of my primary focuses this past fall has been the Impact Teen Driver Program. And in South Central Region, we have 13 counties and a total of 45 schools. 30 of those schools agreed to participate in the Impact Teen Driver Program this fall. What Impact Teen Driver is a presentation that's geared towards 10th grade students. And the program stresses the importance of being a safe driver and a safe passenger, and talks about distractions within the vehicle. Distractions across a whole array of things. So the distraction can be a cell phone, the distraction could be a passenger, eating food, listening to music, those kinds of things. And so the goal is just to address these 10th grade students and talk about what it means to put those distractions away and to be safe on Minnesota's roadways. Teen crashes or crashes involving teenagers are the #1 killer of teens. And so that is why we want to capture 10th grade students and ensure that they're making safe decisions when they get behind the wheel. The one thing that we are often asked is why we don't present this to driver's education, or why is it geared towards 10th grade students within a school? And that is because not every 10th grade student can participate in driver's ed or choose to participate in driver's ed. And so we want to make sure that that equity piece is covered and that we are capturing all 10th grade students as much as we can. And so the 30 schools that we were able to give presentations to across the region resulted in 2,070 students total reached. This is a partnership that's between Towards Zero Deaths and Minnesota State Patrol assists us with presenting to students, so they have that uniformed role there to ask questions of. And so our goal is to try and strive to reach more schools this year. Of those 45 schools, to reach as many students as possible. We have 3 schools on the roster for the spring, and so we're very much looking forward to getting into those schools to kick that off this spring, and then to revisit the schools that we had this past fall for those presentations. So it's an excellent program. It's making a huge difference in the mindset and attitudes of students that are in the 10th grade role. And so our hope is to just continue to educate students and drive down those crashes so parents can see their kids home safe every day. Next slide.
Good morning. I am Sarah McGarry-DeHaan. I am the Southwest Regional TZD Coordinator, and I have one of the Safe Roads Coalition leaders with me today.
Hi, I'm Laura Larson from Countryside Public Health.
So we have implemented CARFIT in our Southwest region. And what is CARFIT? CARFIT is a joint program by AARP and American Occupational Therapy Associations. It helps older drivers stay safe on the road. This program focuses on vehicle adjustments for safety and comfort. We have trained volunteers, guide drivers on proper mirror adjustments, seat positioning, and more. CARFIT is available at in-person events. We also do online. We promote safe driving for older adults. You might ask how CARFIT improves road safety. Well, CARFIT assesses 12 key areas of a driver's vehicle fit to enhance safety. Here are just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. Minimizing blind spots. So we look at the proper mirror adjustment significantly to help them reduce the blind spots, improving lane changements. Optimal foot positioning. Is the foot in correct placement on the pedals? This prevents leg fatigue and ensures quick reaction time. Safe distance from the steering wheel. Maintaining at least 10 inches of distance from the steering wheel reduces the risk of serious injury in a collision. Is CARFIT effective, you might ask? Many individuals, after attending a CARFIT event, have reported making a positive change. Some of these changes include adjusting their vehicles for a better fit for themselves, increased use of the car safety features, and some open communication about driving with their own family and maybe even their healthcare provider. We have one county, Renville County, in the Southwest region that has a very robust CARFIT program. We have also introduced CARFIT successfully into Swift County and Chippewa County, but our goal here in the Southwest region is to expand CARFIT into all of our 14 counties. Laura?
One part of CARFIT that I wanted to touch on today was the partnerships. Like, who do we all invite to this table? Who helps us put these events on that end up being quite successful? And so Sarah alluded that we obviously get occupational therapy involved, and they have been excellent. We're fortunate enough to have the same occupational therapy company housed in all of our areas. And so when we call them up and say, hey, we're putting on this safety event, they are there. They are the ones who then will see the client at the end of the 12-point assessment that Sarah talked about. And should they need some sort of adaptive device, they can receive that there right then and there from the event before they leave, and get to talk to an occupational therapist at the event. So they come with us. We contact our local Lions Club because they're always looking for volunteer hours. They're wonderful people that can be there to help navigate traffic. You can see them wearing the vests. They can work at the check-in station, the checkout station, all of those type of things. We partner with our local senior centers. Oftentimes the parking lots of our senior centers are the best location. We found out at the Chippewa event that, hey, they were doing exercise class in the morning. Come outside and do the safety check as soon as you're done with exercise. So that works out well. And then we also partner with our local Prairie 5, which is like our food shelf, our senior place, it's our 5 countywide avenue for people who need services, and they are very willing to help us out as well. And so the other thing that I did want to touch on as well, after the events that we have hosted, I wrote down some of the most common findings that we found when we did this, that many older drivers do not know, number one, where the emergency brake is or parking brake. And they also have a very hard time showing us where their button is for their hazard lights. Those were the 2 things that they were kind of just hung up on at both of the events that we had. And the other thing to keep in mind is that anyone can get trained to be a car fit technician. It doesn't need to be a TZD coordinator. It doesn't need to be a public health staff. We have people from our probation corrections office that are trained. We have people from our local hospitals and healthcare facilities that joined us to be car fit trained. And so all sorts of partnerships involved, and it really makes for a very successful event.
Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Crescent. I'm the West Central TZD Regional Coordinator. I am based in the Detroit Lakes Moorhead area to Alexandria to Monoman. Today on the next slide, we're going to talk about a project that that's been in play. What if we could predict where and when crashes are most likely to occur? And that is what led MnDOT and HDR to start the Traffic Safety Data and Analytic Project in 2021. The PHASE project aims to help MnDOT and other traffic safety partners in determining additional measures that can be reduce deadly and serious injury crashes in the state. It specifically focuses on opportunities and behavioral strategies rather than new infrastructures. Historically, MnDOT and other state DOTs or transportation units have realized significant success in reducing the overall number of fatalities through predominantly proactive and systematic methods. It includes identifying the factors related to the crashes and analyzing the roadway geometrics, conditions, and traffic patterns so the countermeasures could be implemented effectively. Nevertheless, fatal crashes had continued to rise in Minnesota and across the country over the past few years. This new project, examines a new way of thinking about how we approach these TZ strategies. It explores how model predictions can guide proactive countermeasures to prevent future fatal and life-changing crashes. On the next slide, we're going to see some examples of the project model. The first phase of the traffic safety study applied go back a slide, please. Thank you. The first phase of the traffic safety study applied this traditional systematic safety analysis approach. That's the left side of the screen. It evaluates road safety. It focused on the interstates, the U.S. highways, and the state highways. And it was focused primarily in District 3 of our MnDOT region, primarily central Minnesota. In addition to typical roadway infrastructures, we integrated additional variables, including 6 years of census data, weather data, crash data, third-party speed and traffic flow data, and also the citation data from the State Patrol. into a database and with a GIS-based layer system. This data was analyzed and able to use AI or machine learning that could provide unstructured statistical modeling. The goal was to see whether the data would have helped pinpoint places where fatal crashes were more likely to occur. The analysis identified previously overlooked patterns and relationships, and our model successfully predicted fatal crashes 61% of the time. Importantly, it suggested that some road segments were higher risk than previously considered, and revealing new opportunities to prevent or eliminate fatal crashes. Phase 2 of this project was took the proof of concept from the first phase and expanded it to include MnDOT's District 4 region, more of the western Minnesota area, with an aim to develop more structured and sophisticated statistical models. We replaced much of the infrastructure data with driver characteristics data, including speed, age, seatbelt use, and if the driver was under the influence or distracted. We're going to look at, if you look at the right side of your screen, that's more of what phase 2's model looks like. The refined database was analyzed using two powerful statistical methods, one based on negative binomial regression and other by a Bayesian network model. The goal of both was to develop predictive models for severe and fatal crashes. Both models demonstrated a high degree of accuracy in predicting these incidences, but the negative binomial regression was chosen as a final model due to it's easier to run. By incorporating the driver characteristics, the negative binomial model finds the probability of fatal and serious injury crashes along the road segment, as well as significantly predicted of those crashes. Some of the things that were very important in this model that helped us predict things was the crash statistics and the citation data on older and younger drivers, our impairment due to drugs or alcohol, our speed data, and our seatbelt use. Next slide. As a key outcome of this work, we developed a crash foresight tool, and this is our phase 3 project. This allows users to identify locations with the highest probability of fatal, life-changing crashes occurring. By identifying these locations, time of day, and when most crashes are most likely to occur, the crash foresight tool can help us guide the allocation of resources and the implementation of strategies in all 4 areas: engineering, enforcement, education, and EMS, to effectively reduce fatal and life-changing crashes. For instance, the risk assessment identification in one high-risk road segment with a high number of crashes involved intoxicated drivers. Further investigation revealed several drinking establishments along that segment, highlighting the need for a combined law enforcement and educational strategy to mitigate these crashes. This is just one of the findings and one of the examples that we have found using this tool in the preliminary stages. The crash foresight tool is in the final stage of development at this time and was soon being released to identified users for review and training. Next steps in the project will include using the tool and the safe system approach in looking at strategies to reduce crashes on our roads. Next, I will transition to a new strategy, outreach strategy that in West Central Minnesota that we have been doing. In the spring of 2024, we set out to create a new innovative way to reach people about seatbelt use. After some creative brainstorming, the idea of teaming up with a car wash was developed. Why a car wash? We set out to educate on the importance of buckling up, but also the importance of having a clean car, including clean windshields, mirrors, and lights. Tommy's Express Car Wash was excited to partner with us in Moorhead at their 2 locations, and the staff came up with the slogan, clean, shiny, and safe. Buckle up and save. The car wash staff also felt it was important to educate on distractions while driving, including if you have a bunch of garbage or loose items rolling around in your car, how distracting or dangerous that could be. They offered 20% off to anyone who came to the window wearing a seatbelt for the entire day. And from 11 to 2 in May, Tommy's Express Car Wash planned an appreciation lunch for customers to enjoy after they got their cars washed. Seatbelt messages were placed inside the car wash. Resources were available from local law enforcement, Safe Kids Fargo Moorhead, and our TZ partners. It did start out that day to be raining, however, from 11 to 2, but we did see over 150 cars go through the car wash during that time. From donations, from the car wash people, a $500 donation was made to Safe Kids Fargo Moorhead from Tommy's Express Car Wash to help purchase car seats or a booster chair, or a safe riding tool for any families that are in need that seek help from Safe Kids Fargo Moorhead. After this event, we've continued to brainstorm. And on the next slide, we'll see how we improved and reached more people. So in September, Tommy's Express Car Wash, Sanford Children's Hospital, Safe Kids Fargo Moorhead, Minnesota TZD, and Vision Zero North Dakota partnered together to put on 2 events, one in Moorhead and one in Fargo. The focus was occupant protection, and we held a car seat check at each of these events, in addition to the discount for buckling up. 19 car seats were checked in 3 hours in Moorhead, and 1 car seat was distributed to a needy family during that event. 17 car seats were checked in Fargo during the 3-hour event. Many educational opportunities were available from local law enforcement and others, including the seatbelt convincer. Again, thanks to donations and the support from Tommy's Car Wash, another $500 was donated to Safe Kids Fargo Moorhead. Next slide. We will talk about how this didn't just happen in Moorhead, but it did expand into the West Central region. And Douglas County Safe Roads also did a car wash campaign and around the buckle up message, and with a local car wash in Alexandria. That car wash was willing to give 50% off to car washes to anyone who showed up wearing their seatbelt, and they received the 50% off their car wash, all car washes. Over 150 cars received the discount during the 2 4-hour events. And on the right, you will see Sophia, the Douglas and Grant County Safe Roads Coalition leader, having a conversation about the importance of buckling up. If you're interested in more information or logistics about hosting a car wash buckle up campaign, please feel free to reach out to me. We'll go to the next slide. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Vancouvering, and I am the East Central TZD Regional Coordinator based out of St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I have teamed up with Vicki Johnson, who came up with a great idea of having a prom challenge within the Stearns-Benton area, and that has taken off in all of my regions. And Vicki is here to talk about that. And she is a senior transportation planner with Stearns-Benton, and she's a Toward Zero Death business manager. So I will let her talk about what she's done and how she's made that work. Next slide, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. So this prom challenge, I can't necessarily take 100% credit for. It came out of an idea that was generated out of the Cold Spring Richmond Police Department. Officer Eric Boucher had this idea in which we know that schools across the state typically do something related to traffic safety around prom. And so really wanting to capitalize on the school rivalries and things like that you have typically in sports settings, and really bring that home to talking about traffic safety and positive messaging around that. So how the prom challenge typically works is we essentially challenge all of the schools, public schools within our across our 2 counties to do some sort of traffic safety education throughout the week of their prom. We start at first with seatbelts and phone usage compliance check at the beginning of the week of prom. So we ask that the schools keep tally on those students that are wearing their seatbelts, both student drivers as well as passengers in the vehicle. And we also do ask for looking at drivers for phone usage and things like that. Once we get those tallies and things, we do ask the schools to do some sort of positive messaging around traffic safety. Typically, it's during their lunch hours when we can go ahead and bring in some of those large equipment such as a seatbelt convincer, seatbelt persuader, a rollover simulator, pedal cars, fatal vision goggles, and activities like that. So we typically will bring those into the schools. And then after the week of prom, we ask for another seatbelt compliance check and phone usage compliance check. And then the school that has the largest percentage increase of seatbelt compliance wins our traveling trophy. So originally our program started in 2022. We had 5 schools participate across our counties. It has since expanded tremendously. This year we are looking at about 14 different schools that have committed to doing the challenge. And yeah, so basically what we do is we start the organization on the back end, typically around December, January. And then coordinating with all of the schools, the school resource officers, and school administration to let them know about the intent of what the challenge is and how it works. And then we go ahead and have a sign-up list, figuring out when dates of prom are, and doing kind of like a first come, first serve for in terms of equipment that's reserved. And then we work very closely to make sure that the schools get the preferred equipment when they are looking at kind of having it. This is a team effort. One of the things that I really want to stress is our coalition does not just put this on the schools to essentially do. We pride ourselves on working collaboratively with the schools as well as the school resource officers and local law enforcement. So typically when we are at the schools doing some sort of demonstration, like a convincer or persuader or the pedal cars and things like that, there is usually a volunteer from our TZD coalition that will help go out to the schools and things like that to really kind of promote the traffic safety, because we know that it is really an incredible effort to be able to have the schools, the law enforcement, and all of us that are working in the traffic safety field, all of our volunteers that sit on our coalition, to really come together to promote this, that this is a critical message. So that's kind of the prom challenge in a nutshell. So definitely feel free to ask any questions in the chat or anything like that, but that's what I got.
Thank you, Vicki. As you can see, the machinery that was there, that's all available from just requesting it from me. And if it's available, I'll get it to you. And we have new equipment that's on or will be on order. So we've got lots of stuff for you to use. So thank you, Vicki, and I'll pass it on. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paige Lowry, and I am the West Metro Regional TZD Coordinator.
And hello, I'm Scott Edgeworth. I am the East Metro TZD Regional Coordinator here in the Metro, along with Paige. Can we go to the next slide? Today, we're going to talk about an event that took place here in the Metro at the Mall of America. Back about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3, we were brainstorming in one of our Dakota County coalition groups and finding ways to reach out, just like some of these other presentations you've seen today. You know, how do we put boots to the ground and go see the public? Well, we thought about the Mall of America. You know, it probably hosts close to about 80,000 people or so a day. And we're thinking, well, how can we make this work? Well, as we work through this, the event goals were to create a high profile outreach event and try to impact a large number of people as possible. And also the event concept, when we thought about putting this together, was targeted right after what we do for the state conference that we have here every year. So those were the 2 bases that we were going by. And of course, as we go through the details, you'll see here that everything was represented. Most of the 4 E's were there, as you can see here. You had transportation with the first truck in the picture there. You had ourselves, TZD, which is our persuader and our convincer. And then also you had other groups to around the Metro with DPS, child passenger safety. Our law enforcement network was there as well. And some of the Bloomington PD had set up also a display. And then we also had others involved in that as well. Can we move forward? Some of the things when you set up an event of this magnitude is trying to find out major exhibitors. And again, we just went through some of those real quickly, but you can see here we had everything from car fit demonstrations to the seatbelt convincer and such, and also a crash vehicle and trailer that represented someone who lost their life, as you see in the picture here. A young man was traveling, lost control, and of course his life ended that same day. And we had a lot of people come through this particular event, and it gave us that more of the intimate setting that you have discussions with family members, people from our communities that walked through and got to interact with everyone you see in the pictures. It was a great way to reach out and find ways to communicate and also provide information to those. We had other persons from our Nurses Association and such like that there as well. Our older drivers were represented. You see Joni Soames there. She is our state on our state board here with a TZD. Next slide, please. And then these are additional exhibitors that we had that we reached out to. You can see it's pretty heavily, pretty good pretty good amount of number of persons here or different agencies represented. And there was almost a total of 15 or so within that, as you can see here. Next slide. Obviously, we wanted to start off the event with speakers. And as you can see here, we reached out to different persons through our community. As from left to right, you see Mike Hansen, who is also the Office of Traffic Safety Director through DPS. You have the AARP State Director, Kathy McLear, the Mayor of Bloomington, where the mall resides at. It sits right there beside in Bloomington City, Tim Bussey. Then also we have KTSP TV. He was our MC for the day, Eric Rasmussen. And then, of course, the Bloomington Police Chief, Booker Hodges. Each one gave about a 5-minute speech to start off the Traffic Safety Day, as we called it. Next, please. One of the ideas when we were there is how do we get the message out to those that are just not stopping at the tables but want to look and see? Well, that big screen at the bank, we call it the Huntington Bank Rotunda, the mall let us set up there, and they provide this big screen, and we were able to draft PowerPoint and presentations to go nonstop throughout the event that day. It went from about 10 o'clock to 3 in the afternoon. And you can see all the traffic safety messages that were up there that we were trying to get information to those just walking through. We estimated that each person that came up to the booths, we had 15 different booths along with the exhibitors. We probably hit about 2,500 people as far as conversations, and estimates from the Mall of America said we had about 30,000 or so people walk through that location. Hopefully that impacted those around us and they were able to read or either stop and get some literature or things like that for themselves and their family. Next slide, please. We talked about the promotion, and one of the things we did here, I added this slide because it shows you that we talked about coalition itself and how we work to improve traffic safety in Minnesota. Our sponsors, if you go to the next slide, please. Our sponsors were these that helped us out to bring this together. And you know, when you look for sponsors and find ways to put events together, obviously it's the all-in type effect. It's people that have traffic safety in their culture and what they do as far as their communities and inside their work environments. You can see some of those sponsors were AARP, AAA, Walser Automotive Group, and then also KSTPD TV came in as a sponsor as well. We're still trying to plan the next event. Next, please. And inside that, we're going to highlight some of the things we're doing for the second annual event as we're tentatively preparing a seatbelt challenge within the Metro. We're going to hopefully engage our law enforcement agencies through their Explorer program. We're hopefully going to be sending that out here shortly to challenge each Explorer group to get a team of 4, and those that'll, you know, you have to do it on the honor system. And then they'll send those in, and hopefully we'll get the top 10, of course, and we'll have a playoff series inside that traffic safety day to crown the champion for that event. That's just an insight of what we do here at for the Mall of America, and also for that traffic safety day that we put on. The next one is going to be May 3rd, 2025. If you like to attend or like to exhibit or be a sponsor, you can contact myself. One of the other persons I have to give a shout out to is Alan Ainsworth. He was instrumental to getting this off the ground because he was part of that Dakota County group. We were just sitting there talking about it. And I have to take hat off to Alan and the work he has done as well, and driving this as well through AARP. We have great collaboration, and I look forward to the events in the future as long as Alan will put up with me. So thanks, Alan, for all the work you've done. Next slide, please. Pass it off to you, Raya.
Good morning, everyone. I am Raya Geisler, the Northeast Regional TZD Coordinator. Today with me is Shane Trombley from Itasca County Public Health. And before I hand it over, I just want to give you kind of a background. Next slide. Shane is going to talk about the Highway 169 corridor Itasca County Task Force that he was very instrumental in starting. And so kind of the background is I received an email from Shane and then another email from one of my state patrol captains in my region, all within a couple days, expressing concern about the number of deaths on this stretch of corridor that we have up in northeastern Minnesota. And so the timing and the synergy and the collaboration has been amazing with this task force. And so I'm going to let Shane give you the highlights.
Sure. And yeah, good morning, everyone. And like Raya was saying, it was one of the fatalities we had here in both Jason, who's the captain up here, and myself. Kind of, we look at it, it's like there's a lot in these certain intersections, and we wanted to look to see whether or not that was just a gut feeling, if it's just because sometimes our memories aren't, as far as timelines, especially with COVID, are kind of fuzzy as far as is this actually happening or was that 15 years ago? So we reached out to Raya. She got the data, and it confirmed that it wasn't just just a gut feeling. It was actually data. We had fatalities. We had a number of fatalities. We were over the average for fatalities, as far as the amount of miles traveled and stuff like that. So the first thing we did is let's do a coalition. Let's get some people together. We already had a lot of our E's that come to our meeting for towards zero deaths. One that we were kind of missing is fire departments. Like in a lot of areas that are rural, your fire departments typically can't come to a meeting that you have, a TZD meeting that you have during the day, because they have regular jobs. Luckily, I'm on one of the fire departments that are actually in this area. Otherwise, we were able to get a few other fire departments too to lend their time when we had our first meeting. We got MnDOT involved. We got some county commissioners. We've got some other people involved as well. Yeah, law enforcement, a whole bunch of different people. Sorry, I got distracted for a second there. But so we had our first meeting, and MnDOT pulled a bunch of the data together as far as our intersections and where these crashes were happening. In our area, it's a little unique. We have a 4-lane, that's the majority of it, but then there is a 2-lane section that goes roughly from Taconite to the Pengilly that you can see on that little map there. The question was like, oh, are these all happening on a 2-lane? And eventually that's going to become a 4-lane. There's another project that's happening with that. And no, it was actually happening a lot at intersections when a county road or a city road or something meets 169. So we met with that. First meeting, yeah, went over a bunch of data. Second meeting, MnDOT came forward with a bunch of ideas, and it was either a short term, a long term, or midterm, and then a long term. The short term ones were kind of easy ones where we could just change some striping. Whether one example is they extended a turn lane. It was in a spot coming right out of Grand Rapids. It transitions from 40 to 65, and there's a county road right there. A lot of people feel they're being pushed to go 65, and then they have to slow down right away to get into that turn lane. So instead, they extended the turn lane. People are able to get over faster. What's happening with a lot of these intersections is there'll be someone in the turn lane, and that's blocking your view. So you miss that car that's kind of tucked behind in the quote unquote slow lane or the travel lane. So you're like, oh, there's no cars coming. It's just this one that's in the turn lane. You pull out, and there's a lot of the T-bone intersections. I don't think I mentioned, but there were about 17 fatalities in about 5.5 years in this area. So depending on where you live and how much traffic you have and stuff like that, that might not seem like a lot, but for our area, again, it's above average. And of course, the vast majority of these are our neighbors and our friends and and family and stuff that are involved with it. So what was nice about having that second meeting with a lot of the local people, again, fire departments, county officials and stuff, is I mean, MnDOT can look and tell you what the crashes are. They can look at the overheads, the photos and stuff, but it's really nice to have those people there that understand that travel that, whether it be every day or at least 5 days a week, to be able to give that feedback and say, no, we can't do that. We can't do that in that area because we have a lot of truck traffic, or we have certain things. So like I said, the short-term change was just a striping. Kind of a middle of the road is like making a modified J-turn, things like that. We haven't done those yet. We're actually looking at a traffic study first. We could possibly do some of that. Our long-term ones would be, do we need to put in an actual J-turn? Do we need to put in a roundabout or something like that in that area? Of course, there's a lot more funding with that. And, there's a lot more questions with it and stuff like that. So the end of July, and that's where this this task force, as far as this postcard that we were handing out, and it was an idea Raya had back from her, I don't want to say mad days, but MADD days, because it sounds like she's getting really upset. But back from those days that they handed things out like this, and so we wanted to educate the people as to why there was increased enforcement. Itasca County, the sheriff's office got a grant from the end of July, basically through the end of June next year, where they can do increased enforcement. And they have been, the State Patrol's been doing that as well. So they've been pulling over a lot more people, ticketing for seatbelts, ticketing for different things. So, and I know I'm going a little bit on over time trying to get us back on schedule here, but so what was nice is when you hand these out to someone, they're like, why are you pulling me over? Is this part of your quota, quote unquote, that kind of stuff? And they're like, well, this is why. So they see the desk, they see some positive messaging here on wearing seatbelts and things like that, so that they know, so that when we make these changes in the future, that they can kind of get on board. The fifth E and the E's that we talk about is, everyone. So as far as getting the people in your coalition signed up and then getting this education out to the people to say why we're doing this can really get them to maybe slow down, make sure they wear their seatbelt and actually take this seriously, because they know that this area is they probably know someone who passed away on this. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Shane. And I just want to add to that we've heard, both Shane and I have heard back from law enforcement, State Patrol, really good feedback from people that they're pulling over once they receive this campaign card, that they're thanking the law enforcement for putting the extra effort and attention to this issue that we have with way too many fatalities. And so that's kind of nice to hear, I think, right, Shane, that even our law enforcement folks are hearing a thank you for pulling someone over. So that's been really nice. And the changes that have been made in a short amount of time, and the changes that are going to be occurring, had we not pulled together this very dedicated group of people to make these changes and to address this, we don't know what would be happening, but we're glad that we could do this and work together and collaborate. So thank you, Shane. Next slide. All right, so another initiative that we started here in Minnesota last year was the Minnesota Tribal Traffic Safety Summit. This is a summit for tribes to partner and collaborate with state, county, and local officials. This is traveled around the state of Minnesota to different tribal nations that are interested in hosting. This year, our summit is going to be March 24th through the 26th at the Prairie's Edge Casino with the Upper Sioux hosting. The summit is designed to bring together traffic safety professionals, invested stakeholders, and community members to provide education and awareness of crash-related injuries and deaths affecting Minnesota tribal communities. The event also aims to identify strategies that will prevent serious and fatal injury crashes from occurring on our tribal lands and impacting tribal communities members. So the goals really are to solicit information and feedback related to traffic safety from the nations, to improve the crash data sharing and discuss prevention strategies with tribal community members. A big part of this is to share the experiences and celebrate successful initiatives that have been happening on our tribal nations, to also identify traffic safety resources available to tribal partners. And this would be where TZD comes in. We have a lot of, and you've seen in the previous presentations here this morning, all the different outreach tools that we have, projects and programs. Also to map out and collaborate strategies to prevent fatal, serious, and life-altering crashes, and then to identify strategies that will address the disproportionate fatality rate on our tribal nations. So this is a really great collaborative effort. Again, it's coming up here March 24th through the 26th. If you have any questions or interest, we do have availability for tables, for resource tables. So please get a hold of me. Next.
Hi, I'm Sue Johnson. I'm with the Northwest TZD Regional Coordinator, not with, I am. I have Stacy and I have Roslyn with me from Lincoln High School, if you guys want to pop on.
Yep. Hi, I'm Rosalind Groven over at Lincoln High School. And I'm Stacy Leak at Lincoln High School.
Okay, next. So Vanessa talked briefly about the TZD, the Teen TZD program that she's doing in her region. She's doing some awesome work, and I'm going to expand a little bit more on that, and then I'm going to send it over to Rosalind and Stacy, and they're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about what they're doing for the pre-teen TZD. So as we know, and as Vanessa stated, teen crashes are the #1 killer of teens in the U.S. Suicide, unfortunately, is the #2 killer of teens, and some states go back and forth on #1 and #2. So we know that this is a demographic that needs our focus. This is a TZD statewide program, which we go into the schools and educate and then evaluate. When we talk about distractions, which is a great big part of this program, it's not only about phones, it's anything that takes your mind off driving, hands off the wheel, and eyes off the road. And when we talk about crash fatalities, it's not just the drivers, it's passengers. In fact, 50% of the teen traffic fatalities are passengers. So it makes perfect sense that we provide the education to all of the 10th graders. And why do we do 10th graders? I don't know if Vanessa actually mentioned, but it's because they're actually becoming, working on getting their license, or they just received their license, and we're hoping to change any bad habits that they have at that time. Next. In the fall of 2023, we brought the Impact Teen Driver Program to Minnesota and made it a statewide initiative to address younger drivers and passengers. We started off in the fall of 2023, presenting to 15 schools. In 2024, we're excited to share that we have presented the education to over 60 schools within the state, educating over 3,400 students. So let's take a look at just a few of the results of the program. Keep in mind that all the questions that the students were asked in the survey, every one of the results were positive and moving in the direction of changing their attitudes and behaviors. Next. The survey showed that so in this one, it's doing something simple like applying lip gloss during a vehicle can be lethal. That's one of the things we did talk about the kids is what do they think was lethal? Sure, it's lipstick. Is that lethal? Well, sure it is, because it's taking your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel. So we, in these surveys, we looked at the green and the purple being strongly agree and the green being agree. Anytime we can move that over, we know that we're changing behaviors. So the surveys show more than in this one particular, that the survey showed more than a 23% increase in students who strongly agree that applying lip gloss while driving can be lethal. When combining the strongly agree and the agree responses, we see an increase of 24.5% for those who strongly agree, or who strongly agree and disagree, and agree, sorry. Students were asked 19 questions during the survey, and every survey question, there was a significant positive change in their attitudes and beliefs. The goal is to reach out to all high school students again throughout the state and offer this program to their 10th graders. So again, we took the survey before, and or the survey was taken at the end, but they're asked questions, how do they feel before and how do they feel after? So next. Next slide. Okay. So this one was on passenger behavior. So again, a big part of this program is passenger behavior, because 50% of those passengers are not making good decisions. So one of the questions was, I know which passenger behaviors can be lethal. And so again, as you can see before, before the purple was actually only 28, not only, but 28.7. After the survey, it was 47. The green was 23.2 and the 31.8 was after. So as you can see, both of those areas really significantly increased. And the biggest takeaway from these surveys and these nice little diagrams is the more you move it into the purple, the more you know that you're probably more likely going to be changing behaviors. And again, I just want to say that all these 19 questions, every single question was positive and in the positive direction. So attitudes about too many passengers being lethal for teen drivers increased for those who strongly agreed by almost 20% after engaging the program. And for those who both agreed and strongly agreed, increased by 19.2. So we feel that's very significant. So with knowing that, that's just a sample of all the different questions, but just to show you how it is such a good program and how the kids are really relating to this program. Next.
Hi. So we started the Teens Towards Zero Death program at Lincoln High School quite a few years ago. This will be our 8th conference coming up. And 2 years ago, we were asked the idea if we would ever hold one at Franklin Middle School. Next. So at first we thought, no way, we're not going to do this with middle school students. And then the middle of the summer was like, let's do this. Thankfully, we have such amazing ease in our community that when I sent them a note in July saying, are you on board for doing this in the fall? Everybody jumped onto it. The first time we did it, it was really messy. We had 12 different sessions and all of our 8th graders were able to go through and pick, and we had it broken down on traffic safety, mental health, and like a personal well-being. It went over well, but we knew the way it was structured, it was too much for 8th graders. Next. So we decided that in 2024, we were going to do it again, and we changed it up a little bit. And then we also decided, why not just add the elementary? So we made it for all of 5th graders as well. And it was structured different where it was 5 sessions and all of the students had to take every single session. The ones at Challenger were geared down. Oh, no, go back, please. Okay, the ones at Challenger were geared just for Challenger students. And then the ones for Franklin were the same topics, just a little bit higher. And next, this went over very, very well, not only with the students, but the parents and the teachers. And then for every one of the sessions, we also had talking points. So when they were done, these talking points went out to our parents so they could have the conversations with their students at home. And it was just kind of reiterating the main points within the sessions. One of the things that we found that was really interesting, that was such a big hit for students, for both the elementary and the middle school, was the human trafficking, social media, and internet safety. That was the one that the schools were a little hesitant on, but they also knew they needed to have that. And that was the one that we had the largest feedback on, even by parents, saying that that needed to be talked about more. So going forward, we do know that we will be doing this again next year. The teachers ask that we have the talking points ahead of time so they can talk to the students before going into the session. So that way the kids can start formulating some of the questions. Because each time we gave this, we found out afterwards the kids had a lot more questions. So they were constantly sending us questions that we would send off to the E's and then they would send back. So that's one thing that we did learn from this.
And we did everything in 1 week in October, right before parent-teacher conferences. So we actually had our Key Club members, that's who has the initiative of Teens Towards Zero Deaths. And we had each conference time split up where we had 2 people at Challenger and at Franklin to hand out talking points and to share information. And then we also shared some safety tips for Halloween at Challenger.
I do want to say one thing before we go, because I know I've got like 1 minute left here. I just want to let everybody know that these ladies also put on a teen conference every year. It's in the spring. And when I started about 5 years ago, it was about 150 kids. Now there are over 300 kids that come to that, students in area schools that come around to that all-day conference, which includes everything from mental health to traffic safety to the STEM program, all the E's. They actually have over 15 breakout sessions for these high school kids. They provide a meal for those kids and it's free. So they work on getting grants and things like that. So a big shout out to these guys. They do a lot of work. They are speaking at other people's workshops. They speak at the state conference. I am so excited to have them in my area, and I'm very fortunate to have them in my region. Next.
Awesome. Thank you to all of our presenters today for sharing just a little bit of what they do in every day. So at this time, I'm going to ask all of our panelists to please turn on your cameras. We're going to go into a little question and answer. So I just want to give everybody, all of our people who are joining us today, a little time to come up with some questions that you might have for our panelists and put those in the Q&A section of the chat, or the Q&A section of the Zoom meeting. If you could go just jump to the next slide real quick. And as you're thinking of questions, I just wanted to give a shout out to our regional workshops that are coming up here this spring. We have 8 of them across the state of Minnesota, either a regional workshop or smaller roundtables. And really what our goal is to just try to bring our partners together, work on pulling together action plans of how do we want to move forward for the next year, and then bringing all of our partners to the table. And so I have a link down in the PowerPoint presentation that you'll be able to find online, or you can go to the Minnesota TZD website for some more additional information on those events and dates. So I just encourage people, if you haven't signed up for one, please do so when registration opens up. We can move into the next slide for people to scan. So it's really important that we'd like you to give us some feedback on our presentation today at the Hotdish. And so simple 3 questions to do that evaluation. And so I believe you can also find that evaluation in the chat for your help. So I'm going to turn it over to Christine, who's going to go through some of the questions that maybe were in the Q&A box, and then look for some additional ones. So Christine.
Yep, thanks, Annette. I see Kristen was just asking about the Lincoln school materials. Can they make that available for the TZD conference?
So the information we presented at the TZD, or just the stuff we did today, like kind of what we do with the middle school and elementary?
Kristen, can you elaborate on that? Oh, with elementary.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. As a consultant that deals with crash safety regularly, are there any plans for the crash foresight tool to become a usable tool for the industry in Minnesota, similar to MinCMAT 2? Katie, do you want to respond to that one?
I would love to. Right now, the project is focused on District 3 and District 4, the MnDOT districts, and we did expand it a little bit to include the 3 state patrol districts in those areas. So we're not looking at this at a statewide level at this point. That might be further phases, and we'll have to see where we get some funding for that. And then if you're within the District 3 or District 4 districts, or within those regions, we will be looking for users to look at it and help us with some stuff. So I would encourage you to reach out to me if you're within some of the D3 or D4 regions.
Great, thanks. Someone is asking about the Impact Teen Driver Program effectiveness when we only ask survey questions at the end. Obviously we do pre and post, but does someone want to answer that?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I can certainly try and attempt to answer that. So it looks to me like the question is if we're asking the surveys at the end as opposed to asking those same questions at the beginning. We do ask questions at the beginning of the presentation to gain feedback from students, but the core portion of the survey is at the end of the program. And so the questions do ask like what your thoughts and opinions are prior to the program and how you feel now after seeing that program. And I see your perspective on, you know, thinking it might be more effective to ask pre-program questions, and that's certainly something we could look into. But the other piece of it too is when we go in to present to these schools, we are given a real tight time frame, and the education is very important, and we want to make sure that we're getting students those key pieces of information. However, a lot of schools are also putting a precedence on other areas of learning and education, and so it's really a hard balance when we want to try and gain as much information as possible, but also be respectful of the school's time as well. And Sue, if you have anything to add on that.
So actually the questions are actually made up by Impact Teen Driver, the program, and they are data-driven, evidence-based questions. So they have went out and they have actually did this out there with certain groups and to make sure that these are the appropriate questions and the questions that resonate the most with kids and how they view it. So we don't really have that choice to sit there and choose and not choose what questions, because when we said we're going to do this program, I always kind of say it this way. It's kind of like the AA program. There's 12 steps. You don't get to choose 9 of them or 7 of them. If you're going to get the program to work as designed, we need to follow what they have proven and worked on to see. So we need to follow that program. So though I understand what you're saying, we do need to follow how they have researched the program. These are the people that are psychologists, social workers, teachers, these are the ones that have created these questions and purposely have those specific questions.
And then they were asking how difficult it is to get into the school. So can you, some of you, Sue probably, and Annette, talk about your strategies of getting in?
So to get into the schools have been really simple for me, at least. I'm going to say what for me. So I actually have a letter that's created that either goes into the schools that I can send to the principal. And in that letter talks a little bit about, it's just a 1-pager, just talks about the program, why we think it's a good fit for their school, why we think it's a good fit for that grade. And then if I don't hear back from them in a couple of weeks, to let them know that I will be contacting them because of course we'll know it'll go down to a deep hole because they're busy. I also make sure in that letter I tell them that it is nothing that they have to do other than just allow us the time. So I'm not putting any more burden onto those teachers. I'm not asking them to do anything extra. I'm just asking them to give us that time so we can come and educate their students. I have not had anybody tell me no at all. And these are cold calls that I don't even know these people. And I've been very fortunate in my area because I have 11 schools that I've been working with and trying to add more each year. That's our goal. But I've had really good luck. So, and I follow up. I try to make it sound like I'm doing it for them because I am, and that there's no work involved for them. And they've been very receptive.
Yeah, so so back in 2023 in the South Central region, we had 7 Impact Teen Driver sessions lined up and completed. And then I'm like, because we've seen the results of the impact that this program was going to have, I'm like, just a few more schools isn't enough. So I'm going to try to get as many as I possibly can for poor Vanessa to implement in this past fall. And so I basically did kind of the same thing that Sue did. I sent out a letter to all of the high school principals via email. And in that email body, I said, you know, if I don't hear back from you, I will follow up with you next week. And so then I put on my calendar, make sure to follow up with these schools. And then I would call them and have those conversations. If I wasn't able to reach them, I would send an email and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I had left a message for you today. I would love to chat with you about that. So we were able to get 30 on the books for this fall, which was really great. The other thing that I wanted to say, if you're struggling with trying to get into some of those schools, is to develop the relationships with the people that you already know. And so when Vanessa started, we went to our county engineers meeting and talked about the Impact Teen Driver program and the results that we saw in 2023. And I had one of the county engineers say, well, are you in this school? And I said, well, we are not. And he said, well, would you like to be? And to which I responded, yes, we would. He sent an email the following day, and within 30 minutes, he had a response from that school, even though I hadn't received one. So it's working those relationships that you already have in your communities to help get that buy-in with the schools. So sometimes it's just like they see the email, they don't know who I am, they consider it spam or junk, and so they ignore it. So it's nice to have those partners helping.
Great, thanks, Annette. Jack's asking what the success rate of TZD in reducing traffic deaths since its inception. And we started the TZD program in 2003. And from that time, we've had plateaus, but as of not counting the data last year, we've had a 39% reduction in traffic-related deaths. So we consider that a huge success. I will say that last year our numbers went back up, and also to our dismay during COVID years, they were increasing, but right now from the inception, it's 39% reduction. Let's see. I don't see any more. Oh, yes, we do. Yep, Monica's mentioning the tools that we are using for educating are great for the different coalitions across the state. Okay. Have you considered using both methods to compare results and strengthen the validity of the data? And I believe they're talking about impact teen driver. The surveys pre and post.
What was the question?
Have you considered both methods to compare results and strengthen the validity of the data? So traditional pre-survey could provide a more objective baseline, ensuring that any shifts in understanding are measured without relying on memory.
So again, like Vanessa said, we're very cramped with time. We only get so much for one thing, so that gets to be a little longer. And then B, I understand and totally understand what they're saying, and it's something that we can go back to impacting drivers and let them know that that's a question that we've had. And again, we can't change the program however we want, because this is the program that we signed up for, and so we can tweak it a little bit, but not to the point of because it's going to skew the data. And the data for them is the same data that they have 27 states that are doing this program. And so for us to be consistent with the whole program, we kind of have to stay on track as well. But I will definitely mention that to them, that there's some questions about the pre and the post, and see what they have to say. But I do know I did ask about that, even the length of questions. Somebody had said, well, 19 questions seemed like a lot. Well, the kids do it on their phone. They can whip through 19 questions a lot faster than you think they can. So, but again, yeah, thank you for that feedback, and I will definitely send that off to impacting drivers.
Well,
right,
looking at the time today, we're already a little over. So if there's any additional questions that are in the chat or in the Q&A box, we can certainly follow up on those. So I just want to thank again all of our panelists for presenting today. I appreciate your willingness and time to share all of that great knowledge and successes that you've had. And then I just want to encourage everybody attending the webinar today to please follow us on Twitter or to like us on Facebook. We also have our TZD website posted as well. So stay safe, everyone, and thank you and have a wonderful day.